Welcome to ZekeTalk. This is Jim Tudor, and this is the final ZekeTalk of June, I believe. So it's a good chunk of the way through the summer movie season all of a sudden.
Yeah, it seems like it was made just yesterday.
It just falls off the calendar.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I'm a film critic and a sometimes filmmaker, and the host of this show. So thank you for everybody for watching. We have with us tonight, as always, Michael Anderson.
Yes, I am Michael Anderson. I am a filmmaker and a child of the 80s.
And our guest tonight is Dean Treadway, who is a podcaster in his own right with Movie Geeks United. He has a website called filmicability.com, which is very well worth checking out. It's stocked with all kinds of lists that Dean has made about films based on his own tastes and recommendations. And the reason it's worthwhile is because Dean is a encyclopedia of filmic knowledge.
No, that's nice too. That's nice. Yes, well, it's good to be on the show.
Thanks, Dean.
Glad to be talking with you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Dean.
Yeah. You're with Movie Geeks United, and sometimes you come on and contribute some lists to ZekeFilm. There's been a couple of really fun lists that people can go to the site and see. One was back around the Easter time, and it was films with rabbits in them.
Yes.
Some odd picks.
30 movies with rabbits. Well, I really have like a kind of a collection of lists that I've just kind of made myself for my own enjoyment over the years. And so they're kind of piling up, and you know, I've done odd lists of like the 40 greatest movie apartments, or the greatest hats in movies, or movies that partially take place in sewers and stuff like that. So it can go on and on. So
well, bring it on. I can't.
My favorite movie with an apartment in it, oddly enough, it's The Apartment.
That's your favorite movie, Apartment?
It's the one that comes to mind, and I'm not sure why.
You know what? I have kind of a this might not be my favorite movie, Apartment, but I certainly like. There's something about The Apartment that Felix and Oscar share in The Odd Couple that's strangely fascinating to me. I don't know why. Something about the way it's photographed or the way it's art directed or something, but it's really an interesting apartment. So,
Yeah.
but and certainly some of the apartments in Hannah and Her Sisters are also quite good. So, and probably a lot of Woody Allen apartments. So
Yeah, now you're talking. The apartments in those films are a little more visually interesting, I think, than the apartment in the apartment. Where I think what's more interesting there is what's going on in the apartment. Yeah, is that the criteria, or is it the vibe of the actual physical space?
I think it should be the vibe of the space and the look of it. I think, and the layout of it, and even you know what I like about the apartment in The Apartment is it's also quite well art directed. And it's got a kind of a messy quality to it that I like. You know,
right.
He's a bachelor and stuff, so I kind of like that.
And this would be an ideal moment. Just an aside here, for our viewers, I'll let everybody know that Dean is not somebody who freezes in his spot like that. You know, it's just the computer and the camera that he's using tonight, and that's just how it is. So bear with us, and it'll all be fine. I feel like a loser. I can't think of any apartments that I could recommend right now. This just kind of came out of nowhere.
Michelle Pfeiffer's apartment in Batman Returns. That's a good apartment too.
Was that the one where she has the neon sign that says "Hell here"?
Yeah. Well, it starts out saying "Hello there." But when she transforms into Catwoman, she takes out a couple letters, and the meaning transforms.
Yeah, that's funny.
I just thought that's double stupid at the time. And, you know, it's like, why would she have a big neon sign that says, "Hello there"? and it seems like it's only a part of the movie, so she could take out a few letters and have it say "hell here."
Well, of course it is.
It's not that clever.
That's movie magic.
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we've got other
another
movies.
list. That's another list entirely. My favorite neon signs in movies. And number one favorite neon sign in movies is the neon sign that's hanging at the bar that they go to in Blue Velvet.
Oh.
That says "This is it." You know, that's a great neon sign. If you're watching it on the small screen, you might miss it, but you've seen it. If you've seen it on the big screen, you know that when Frank Booth comes up and says "This is it," and then they cut to the place, and it has "This is it" in the neon. I've always wanted a neon sign that said "This is it."
Well, I bet you could probably find one. It may be very expensive, but they're probably out there now with everything being made on demand and all of this.
Actually, I'd like to do a reverse Catwoman. I'd like to get a neon sign that says "Hell here" and then add an O and a T to it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
Why not?
Okay, so what's the main topic of conversation tonight?
Oh, it's just this. No, I'm actually, we do have a topic, sort of. We have several topics. We're going to talk about a few new things that are out there in the pop culture landscape, and we're going to talk about our Blu-rays and DVDs, which I've got several here that I haven't watched yet. So I'm curious to see what you guys might think of them. Maybe give me a warning or give me an idea what to expect. And then I know Dean's got a few that he's seen. Is that right?
Oh, me? Yeah, I've got a few. I've got three here.
Okay.
That, I've been meaning to write about on ZekeFilm.
Sure.
Sent to us by Kino, and haven't really gotten around to writing about them. So hopefully this will fulfill the brief. And
yeah, we'll do this instead. So let's cover these bases and talk about whatever movies these are. I'm curious because I don't remember what you've got.
Oh, okay. So you want to do those now?
Sure.
Well, the first one is called Deep Web.
Okay.
And am I holding it up right? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. As long as you're talking, we can see you.
Yeah. So Deep Web is a documentary that was done a couple of years ago. It actually did get theatrical release, but it was done by Alex Winter, who we might remember as part of the Bill and Ted team. Who did he play? Did he play Ted?
No,
he played Bill, and he also directed the Freaks movie with with Keanu Reeves as the Wolf Boy.
I thought it was Todd Browning directed that. What's going on?
I forgot what was that? That was the Dark. It was, what was the name of that movie? The Dark something.
The Freaks movie?
Yeah.
The Alex Winter movie, I believe, was called Freaks with an ED, not Freaks like the Todd Browning.
Oh, okay. My mistake.
I thought it was, okay. I'm thinking of something else. Anyway, the Deep Web is a documentary about the dark web and the guy who sort of helped popularize it. And it's quite good. I'm sitting here. It's been a little while since I've seen it.
Sure.
But Dread Pirate Roberts is the guy's online name.
All right.
And you know what the dark web is, right? It's the part of the web. I've never gone to this part of the web. I don't even know how to get to it. But it's the part of the web where you can buy illegal things.
If you want a human toe, you go there.
Yes, exactly. That would have been great for the Big Lebowski.
Yes.
And anyway, it's a very very accomplished documentary. And if you want to know more about the dark web, I'd highly recommend it. Uh, Cinematically, it might have a few problems, but generally, as an information delivery device, it's pretty good. And I can't fault his his investigatory abilities very much. So I would highly recommend Deep Web if you want to know more about this subject. The interesting thing about these Kino releases, we get two at ZekeFilm. We get two kinds of Kino releases. We get releases of actual theatrical narrative movies
Mm-hmm.
that we can review that are often classic films, and then we get this other set of movies that are very very specifically targeted to very very small niche audiences. And I think the deep web is one that is more of a wider, kind of a wider, has more of a wider appeal. But this one that I'm about to reveal, which is called Rockaway,
Mm.
uh, uh, before and after, it really can. I mean, talk about a very specific type of audience. This is about a section of New York City called Rockaway Beach, which really hit its height of popularity in the 40s as uh, kind of a vacation getaway uh, area for New Yorkers and people in New Jersey and so forth. It was filled with small little beachside bungalows and boardwalks and things like that. And then I guess in the 60s and the 70s, it started to take a downturn, and it became quite run down. And But obviously, people still have a tremendous affection for it. And this is two 1-hour documentaries done by a filmmaker named Jennifer Callahan. One is about the history of Rockaway Beach, and the second, which is I think a little bit more interesting, is a documentary about what happened to Rockaway Beach after the hurricane hit, after Hurricane Sandy hit, and and a very positive kind of documentary, I think, about people's resilience after being hit by this disaster. But again, if you don't know what Rockaway Beach is, this will be both an education, but also, a kind of a kind of an interesting take on a bygone way of life. I think, So,
I think we're remiss to not mention perhaps Rockaway's most famous contribution to the popular culture, which is the Ramones song.
I was just thinking about
that. Which reminds us that it's not far to reach, but we can hitch a ride to Rockaway Beach.
Yeah, there is that's probably most people's connection to Rockaway Beach. So I'm glad you mentioned it, Mike. But finally, the best out of the three to me.
Did they get the song? Is it in the movie? I'm sorry. Did they?
Actually, they did. I guess they couldn't get the rights to it. They have a few other songs in it, and I think they do mention, the Ramones. Sure. But they didn't use the song. But they have a couple of other Rockaway Beach related songs. It's actually quite a sweet couple of documentaries,
Okay.
And interesting, just a strange side note, the director, since they're both movies about Rockaway Beach, the director kind of reuses some footage in both movies, which I've never seen before. But yeah, got to do what you got to do if you're a poor director. And then finally, this is the best of the bunch. This is called The Migrants, This is a 1974 TV movie. This is only released on DVD. By the way, these are all just DVD releases, not Blu-rays.
I see.
This is actually quite a good movie. It's just listen to the people that are in it. First of all, you got Cloris Leachman. It's about modern. It's 1974, and it's about migrants in the 70s still working. So it's set. I think it's set in the 70s. It might be set in the 50s or something. But it's got Cloris Leachman as the mother. Ed Lauter as the father. We always remember the Ed Lauter, great character actor. Ronnie Howard as the son. Sissy Spacek as the daughter. Cindy Williams as Ron Howard's girlfriend. So it's a reuniting of Cindy Williams and Ron Howard from American Graffiti. Yeah. And, of course, the Happy Days saga. Saga. And David Clennon, another great character actor. Lots of good character actors in it, too, like Claudia McNeil, who played the mother in Raisin in the Sun with Sidney Poitier, and Dolph Sweet is in it, who people might remember from, what was that TV show that Dolph Sweet did in the 80s? Was it something like, he did some kind of comedy TV show.
Was it the half-hour comedy hour?
It was like he had two daughters. It was one of these shows that I never watched because
was it No Soap Radio?
No, it was more like Too Close for Comfort or something like that. But it was on NBC. It wasn't on ABC. It was like.
Well, quick, everyone to the internet. The first person to email us with the answer gets a no prize from ZekeTalk.
But anyway,
is it Give Me a Break?
Is a very accomplished movie. The director is Tom Greaves, who is the father of John Greaves, who was in Napoleon Dynamite, played Uncle Rico. Well, he was Tom Greaves was also the director of Helter Skelter, a little bit more famous TV movie from the 70s. And this is just basically covers the same kind of ground that The Grapes of Wrath kind of covered. Only more, it did so in John Ford film a lot more artfully, I would say. But it was nominated for 6 Emmys, didn't win any, but it's got a script by a Pulitzer Prize winning author, Lanford Wilson, and it's based on a short story by Tennessee Williams. So it's got quite a pedigree behind it. And if I have one negative thing to say about it, it just kind of treads familiar ground a little bit. And it also leaves you at the end with kind of wanting a little bit more. It's only 75 minutes long, and I don't think it's long enough to really explore the subject matter very entirely. So, but it's still worth it to see the young Ron Howard, the young Sissy Spacek, and Cloris Leachman doing some good dramatic work. So.
Well, that sounds like a great, rescue from obscurity.
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you another thing too. I'm kind of become a student of TV movies recently. I got a book that tells about the history of TV movies and lists every TV movie in order from the first one in 1964 to about 1,500 entries later, the one that was most recent, with 1984. So it's a 1984 book, so it only goes up to that year. Oh. But it's a fantastic book. And TV movies, that's a whole other realm of movies that,
Yeah.
you know, if you're a fan of a specific actor or whatever, you can find new stuff by these actors or directors that you've never seen before. So they should really put a lot more TV movies out, I think.
Yeah, they should. There was one that Kino put out called "The Park Is Mine" with Tommy Lee Jones.
Right.
And nobody from Zeke bothered to take that. I was a little overwhelmed that month, so I didn't take it. That's a TV movie.
Yeah.
Where he takes up arms and he's gonna claim Central Park or something. I don't know.
Yeah. It was an HBO. I think it was like an HBO movie.
Oh, all right.
In the mid '80s, one of their first TV movies, where he's he's an angry veteran and he takes the park hostage, so to speak.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that back in the day. That's been a long while.
Yeah. No, I love reading about these TV movies because you go through the list and you see the list of people in some of them, and it's just astonishing. You know, you'll see like just one out of a million of them in there, but I saw the listing for a retelling of the tale of Faust, starring Peter O'Toole and Jodie Foster. And I was like, wow, Peter O'Toole and Jodie Foster. Those are huge names for a TV movie.
What network ponied up for that?
I think it was an ABC movie. I think it was an ABC movie of the week. But it's astonishing the number of movies that are out there that we can't see.
I think now that cable has sort of made certain television networks a home for the TV movies. I'm thinking specifically of the Lifetime movie of the week and the Sci-Fi sort of their cheapo horror movie of the week. Those are two networks that sort of built their brands on the TV movie, where you bring back two sitcom stars from the '80s and you put them in with the Mansquito, and you sit back and watch the results. And it was actually a really big ratings bonanza for Sci-Fi for all those years at an incredibly cheap cost. So it worked out for them. And as they said, the Sci-Fi movies of the week are not the thing that they want to be remembered for, but they were cost effective enough that that's how they were able to afford to do things like Battlestar Galactica, like some of the prestige stuff that they're doing since then. The Magicians or 12 Monkeys or The Expanse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that explains that. I've worked on a few of these things in my filmmaking career. In the art department and set decorating, and there's nothing like working on a made-for-Sci-Fi Channel movie. I'll just say that.
What specifically?
While I'm talking about this, Dean, you were talking about neon signs. I have that triggered a little minor trauma from having to transport a truck full of custom-made neon signs across town. To a location, and of course they are the most fragile thing in the world. If they break, we're hosed. So, of course, one of them got broken.
Of course,
had to happen.
Right. Another aside. Sorry.
Yes. A bit of trivia that Sci-Fi's first most infamous movie of the week was actually a complete fluke. Mansquito, which for many years sort of defined the genre title of Sci-Fi, that was never intended to be a movie.
Mm-hmm.
They had a list of all the different shows and TV movies that were coming up to the Sci-Fi network, and whenever you release something like that to the public, you want to have a big full list. So whenever they release one of these lists of this is everything we're doing in the next season of Sci-Fi, they always pad it out to make it look like it's going to be more, even though they know that the last 5 are never going to get made. They're just there to make it look more impressive. And one of the one of the things they'd put in was, you know, at the end of the list, just as a gag, they put down Mansquito, the movie. And when they had the press release came out and they got questions, it's like 90% were all about, what's this Mansquito movie? When is that coming out? We want to see the Mansquito movie. And so they just sort of looked at each other and it's like, well, now we have to make it. It was never intended to be a movie, but that's how legends are born.
Oh, sure.
Luckily for the TV movie, we don't just have Sci-Fi, and we don't just have Lifetime. We also have HBO to provide some of the good stuff. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Dean, I remember you talking years ago on Movie Geeks United about TV movies and the strange nostalgic appeal that, you know, we carry with us. And you said something about, you know, a TV movie, it's like, you know, a shot of like the lighting will be just such, and you're out in some neighborhood or something, and the car, you know, comes back from commercial, and a station wagon will pull up and the music will just go, and I remember you saying that, and I was just like, that sounds completely incoherent and insane, but I get
it. Yeah, you know, just show the station wagon pulling up to somebody's house, and the music will be like, burr, 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 you know, and it'll fade out, and then you go into the action. You know, there's just something comforting about it. If you grew up watching, you know, I'm a little older than you guys are, so I grew up. I was a '70s kid.
Right.
So growing up watching, you know, the ABC movie of the week or whatever with, you know, some Avalanche movie with William Shatner and I don't know, Anne Francis or somebody like that. You know, I mean, I just love those kind of things. I would love I'd love to see a whole network devoted to nothing but TV movies.
I'm surprised that doesn't exist.
You know, that would be great. But yeah, I have a very fond connection with. I just have a connect. We all have connections with what we grew up with.
Sure.
And I think that's where all that comes from. But
here's a few that I'm remembering right now. Just you know, just coming to me. There was World War III with Kathy Lee Crosby, and I think this was a multi-night deal where in the early 1980s, Cold War, and they were machine gunning everybody in the snow. It was, you know, this is what World War III is going to be like, and it was very tense.
Well, do you guys remember a movie that was done in the 80s called Special Bulletin? That was done. They actually had to run. It was directed by Edward Zwick, and written by him and Marshall Herskowitz, and it was done like a live news show. And they actually had to put disclaimers on there saying this is a TV show. This is not real. But it was done like a live, like a CNN network, covering a couple of American terrorists who are holding a small nuclear bomb that they had gotten hold of and are somewhere on the East Coast, and they're holding it. You know, they're threatening to detonate the bomb unless their demands are met. And it's very, very realistic, incredibly realistic.
What time period?
Huh?
When did this air?
I think this is like 82, 83.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and very, very disturbing to the point where it was so real that I think the director felt the necessity to put in some little dramatic bits here and there that kind of broke the illusion. You know, it was little scenes with Michael Murphy and some actress that I don't even know playing reporters that were discussing what was happening. and then they would go back to the live TV part of it. So just so they could let people know that this wasn't really happening, because it was so real. But there's so many great TV movies, things like Something About Amelia with Glenn Close and Ted Danson, where Ted Danson was molesting his daughter, played by Roxana Zal. So it was the first movie to really bring child molestation to people. It was a huge deal. People were running around, wow, this is happening. They'd never even thought about it. Like,
oh my.
Okay. The TV movie I want to bring up, the one that I remember the most, and I wish they'd release it sometime, is a movie called Murder Can Hurt You. It's from like 1980, which, if you remember the Neil Simon movie, Murder by Death, where they brought all the greatest, detectives, like Hercule Poirot and Columbo, Sam Spade and Sherlock Holmes and all the great detectives together, and then one by one they kill them off.
Right. So does that happen in this one too? I mean, it's just basically a retread of. It is
a complete retread, but they did it with TV detectives. So you had
TV detectives.
You had Victor Buono as Chief Ironbottom. You had Tony Danza playing, Lambretta, the sort of Beretta character. You had Jamie Farr and John Biner playing Studsky and Hatch. You had, Kevin McLeod as Lieutenant No-Jack. You had Beth Ogans as McSky, and Burt Young as Lieutenant Palumbo.
Wow, that's great.
And
I would love to see that.
I think someone may have posted it on YouTube at one point. I have to double check on that. But I remember watching it and thinking it was hilarious at the time. Admittedly, I hadn't reached double digits in age yet, so I'm not sure how well it holds up. But, it's one of those movies that, there were scenes in it that, just stuck with me for years. And like, for instance, the Starsky and Hutch characters. Hutch gets killed off like early in the film.
Oh, spoilers!
But, spoilers, yes. No, Hutch gets killed off, and Starsky goes crazy, and he starts imagining Hutch is there with him. So for the rest of the movie, he's acting like, me and Hutch will go get him, right, Hutch?
He's not there.
Hutch is dead.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of gravitate towards the more serious ones. Like, I like, the ones about people dying and drug addiction and stuff like that. The death of Richie with Robbie Benson and Ben Gazzara, for instance. I like the more serious ones, but I do also like things like that, or Evil Roy Slade. Do you remember that?
Yes.
The one thing that I remember, the other one that really stuck with me, because I just thought it was the coolest thing, was a TV movie called The Man with the Power, and starred Vic Morrow, who you may remember from the Twilight Zone tragedy, and Persis Kambata. A couple of years before she was on Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and this apparently was a 2-hour pilot that didn't get picked up. It was the era of the $6 Million Man, Bionic Woman, that sort of thing. So the Man with the Power, it was this special agent who somehow developed the powers of telekinesis, and he could move things around, and he went around and he fought crime.
Yeah.
What is this called?
It's called The Man with the Power.
Oh.
And I remember seeing it as a kid and thinking, this is the coolest thing ever. And I remember being rerun a couple times because every time it was on, it's The Man with the Power. I remember that. This is the best movie ever.
Best movie ever. Well, I did. There was a moment when I was in the 6th grade and we got to go around the room and say what our favorite movies were. And this sort of thing never happened. And for me, I was already kind of a film buff nerd as a kid, you know, like combing movie ads in the newspapers and seeing what was playing and what was coming out. And I was even reading reviews. So I was like, this is cool. Except I blew it because the night before I had just watched one of those, the very first Perry Mason revival. Perry Mason Returns with Raymond Burr. You know what I'm talking about?
I remember it.
Yeah. And anyway, I got so into it, and it was kicking around in my head, and you know, I just really enjoyed watching that. That was my favorite movie that day. Perry Mason Returns, and a bunch of kids in the class like,
that one.
yeah. Oh, I watched that. Yeah, that was good. You know, I was like, you know, back then it was like E.T., 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 Perry Mason Returns.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite movie. It's not even, I don't even remember it now, but I do remember. I don't know. What can you do?
Well, that's fun.
It is fun.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I guess if we're talking DVDs and stuff,
yes,
I'll bring my one contribution. I haven't received anything from Kino yet,
yeah.
but this is one DVD that I had been watching recently.
Jack of all trades. I have that.
All Trades, yes, starring Bruce Campbell. Remembering those halcyon days back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where every Saturday and Sunday there would be a block of television on every independent station where it was these cheesy, very cheap fantasy shows. And this was near the tail end of it, and this was specifically designed as a starring role for Bruce Campbell. This was done by Sam Raimi's company, who also at the time was giving us Xena and Hercules, the Legendary Journeys. And this was paired with this was a half-hour show that was paired with another half-hour show called Cleopatra 2525. That was like the action hour. But Jack of all Trades was a comedy, sort of a take-up on the Zorro mythos, where Bruce Campbell plays a sort of foppish character who is actually a secret agent for the American government on a West Indies island in Palo Palo. But at night he has to don a mask and do the more daring things that no one would ever believe that this millionaire playboy would ever do. But really, it's just an excuse. The slightest bit of plot to hang a bunch of jokes that really pushed the envelope at the time. If you remember, there's a lot of double entendres. One of his favorite expressions is, well, yank my doodle, which...
He says yank my doodle all the time?
He says yank my doodle. That was a phrase that I'm not sure if he said it all the time, but he said it at least once, and it stuck with me.
It caught on, if only with you.
Try and bring that back in the popular lexicon. Yank my doodle.
Yes.
It's not happening. Yank my doodle is not happening. Stop trying to make it happen.
It's a half-hour of mindless fun, and I've been having a pleasure revisiting it. And oddly enough, looking at some of the credits, seeing how some of the writers have gone on to bigger and better things. Many of the episodes were written by a young Alex Kurtzman and Robert Orsi.
Oh, good Lord. Okay,
who have sort of grown into filmmakers of great filmmaking power of their own. So
they're the Transformers guys, right?
They're the Transformers guys. They did the Star Trek reboot for J.J. Abrams.
Okay.
Wow, and this is what enabled them.
Yes, they created Fringe with J.J. Abrams.
Okay. That was a weird show.
So they're billionaires now.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't
millionaires, and I'm sure they love it when people bring up. Remember when you did Jack of all Trades? Remember that? You peaked then,
Yeah, I have that disc. I traded for it years ago at some used record store, and I've never watched one episode. I just got it because I like Bruce Campbell as much as the next guy. And Briscoe County Jr., that's a huge bummer that didn't last.
Yes, that was a classic show and highly recommended. I bring it out right now, but it's not within arm's length.
Oh, well, that's all right.
Yes.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, let me. I'll show some discs here that I've received that I've not yet watched. I know, Mike, you were excited about the Road to Bali.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Kino Lorber is putting out, and not to be an ad for Kino, we don't get any kickbacks from them or anything. It's just, they send us discs, so it just works out that way. The Road to Bali, this is a series of 7 movies. This, I think, was the second to last one. I've not seen this yet, but I wanted to check at least one of these movies out. I've been meaning to get acquainted with this series for years. So this month, Kino's putting out a bunch of Bob Hope movies that others have snapped up. One of them's already on the site. My Favorite Burnett, I think, is the title that Justin Morey reviewed. And then Robert Hornack's got one on the way. I'm supposed to get Son of Paleface, and also Mike's getting one of these road movies, right?
Yes. The Road to Rio, I believe.
You have it?
I do not have it yet. It has not arrived.
Oh, all right. Well, anyhow, what I think we're going to do, and I don't know how we're going to promote this inside the site, but we're going to call it No Hope Month with a KNOW. That's a Robert Hornack made that up. It's like no Bob Hope, know your Bob Hope, but no hope.
Good. How weird is it, by the way, that Woody Allen idolizes Bob Hope? Can you see any kind of correlation there between between Bob Hope and Woody Allen? I always thought that was strange. I don't know if you guys are a fan of SCTV,
Sure.
The television show.
Oh, yes.
But of course, one of their most famous sketches was Play It Again, Bob. The spoof with Woody Allen, played by Rick Moranis, perfect Woody Allen, trying to strike up a friendship and to do a movie with Bob Hope, who of course was played by Dave Thomas. And I thought that's funny, but then years later I found out Woody Allen really does love Bob Hope. He thinks those movies are some of the funniest movies that have ever been made, and that he actually wants to emulate Bob Hope in some ways in his own movies.
Wow.
I think that's odd.
Well, I think also is that growing up as we did with Bob Hope on the waning years, growing up with Bob Hope meant a really stupid special, like every Christmas, possibly one in the summer as well, where it's I don't know, look, it's Donna
Comedy.
Dixon.
Yeah. Doug Henning and Paul Williams and Ricky Schroeder, all these guys we get trotted out.
They when you have to understand Bob Hope and why Woody Allen might have idolized him, you have to watch these movies that they're talking about. My Favorite Brunette, the road movies. I mean, those are classics. Classic, just nonstop jokes and patter. Especially Road to Morocco and Road to Utopia. Road to Rio and Road to Bali. They're sort of on the tail end. But
which is what
when they were firing on all cylinders, there was nothing like them. And we're talking about The Paleface. We're talking about My Favorite Laundrette. I believe was Bob Hope. Yes.
It is.
My observation with the Bob Hope movies is very similar to my observation of some television series. You know how, let me give you an example. The Andy Griffith Show. The Andy Griffith Show is a great show when it's in black and white. It's funny, it feels real, and everything. But when it turns to color, it instantly becomes unfunny and unreal. And there's something to be said, in that realm for these Bob Hope movies, which I think are funnier when they're in black and white, but when they turn to color, they're not so great.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, this one's in color.
Andy Griffith wasn't helped by the fact that when they turned to color, they lost Don Knotts, and that
that's
was
true.
One of the big hits of the Andy Griffith series.
Yes,
he evaporated.
But everything looked fake. Like the town suddenly looked fake. Like it was fake all along.
Yes.
But
yeah,
it looked more real in black and white than it did in color. Like that's so weird.
Yeah.
Very odd thing. But I just think those black and white Bob Hope movies and the road movies, for instance, the road movies are a perfect example of like they're probably not as funny when they're in color. I mean, I can't name a funny a Bob Hope color movie that I really like. You know, Cancel My Reservation. You know, Boy, I Got a Wrong Number. You know, these are not great movies.
Not great movies. This has stills on the back in black and white, and my 6-year-old son, who for whatever reason is black and white movie averse. I'm trying to learn him out of that. He came along and picked this disc up and said, "Oh, that looks funny," and then turned it around. "Oh, it's in black and white?" And I said, "Well, actually, here it says it's in color." He's like, "Oh, good. So maybe they'll have at least one fan of this color movie, Dean." I don't know.
Have you asked him exactly what it is about black and white that he doesn't like?
Incoherent answers so far. I'm gonna try again, and we'll weed it out. He sat through the first half hour of Paradine Case tonight, no problem.
Okay.
And as you said,
because the kids love that.
Exactly.
That's definitely one of Hitchcock's more exciting movies, and I'm big.
No, you said on the other podcast it's Hitchcock's most boring movie, and I'm thinking, oh, great. Well, I got it here to review. Far overdue review, by the way. That was supposed to be back in April. So yeah, I'll be posting that next week, I hope, finally, and trying to get caught up because the brick. Shalako.
Yeah.
Okay, so I took this. Edward Dmytryk directed this Western in 1968. Had to be in his own waning years. This is somebody who made movies like, in the film noir era, like in the 40s and everything.
Yeah.
Sean Connery, Bridget Bardot, and Stephen Boyd. I'll be honest with you. I took it because Bardot is in it. I had never heard of this movie.
I have a one sheet for it.
Oh,
of course you do.
I know, it's crazy. But I've never seen it, so
okay.
That's how it is.
Well,
I only
let you know.
Because of Bardot.
Yeah.
That was the only reason.
Yeah, that's the only reason I took it. And Sean Connery. I mean, okay, let's find out. This is again 1968. He was eking his way out of James Bond at that point.
Yeah, but he hadn't quite hit Zardoz yet. So,
well, speaking of that level, we did do the Film Admissions Notorious Turkeys back for Thanksgiving on ZekeFilm, where we watch movies we hadn't seen before that fit whatever category has been designated as Notorious Turkeys. This film was covered by Justin Morey. Zardoz also covered. Anyway, The Apple is the one I'm holding up right now. And this, I've never seen this. It is directed by, I'm going to butcher his name, but it's
Menahem Golan.
Golan, yeah, thank you. That he directed.
Golden Globes fame.
Canon Films fame, yes. The Apple, a rock and roll, overblown.
It's nuts. It's nuts. It's one of the nuts movies you've ever seen in your life. I mean, you'll start it. You're like 15 minutes, 10 minutes in, you'll be like, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to stick with this one, but you should stick with it. It's if you're surrounded by the right people, if you maybe watching it with a buddy or whatever, somebody who has a good sense of humor. Right. I think you'll have fun.
Well, I tried Can't Stop the Music back when that was streaming a few years ago, I made it through the 1 hour, and it seems like Can't Stop the Music in the Apple might be. I could be wrong, but it seems like they could be of a piece.
Well, the problem with Can't Stop the Music is that the one thing that is missing from the Apple, it's also a nutty movie, but it's not. It doesn't have the design element. It doesn't have the Apple feels like it's the product of a very, very out there kind of vision, but at least it is a vision. Whereas Can't Stop the Music seems like a craven kind of cash grab for the disco audience that was completely, miscalculated. And it's just
Can't Stop the Music, which we need to remind everyone was directed by Nancy Walker,
right.
In Rhoda's Mom and the Quicker Picker Upper from the Bounty commercials.
That's right.
Who decided that Rhoda's Mom was the perfect director for Can't Stop the Music, the disco movie? I don't know who put them together, but it has one perfect moment where the leather guy gets down on one knee and gives a very heartfelt rendition of Danny Boy.
Yeah, you're right.
And then he chugs a Dr. Pepper at the end, and that's just one of those perfectly awful cinematic moments that you just want to cherish, because movies like that, usually there's a committee of people at the studio, the producers, everyone. Someone usually points out, it's like, that's just stupid. You shouldn't do that. But everything failed in this matter, and somehow it made it through the assembly line to our screens. And you're just sitting in it. That is a most perfectly awful moment of film, and it's precious and it's rare, and we should cherish it.
Yeah, I can get behind that assessment, but I still think that the Apple is worth much more because. I guess because the filmmaker is completely unfettered. He's just letting loose completely, and there's just something about it. That's the music is awful. Don't get me wrong, the movie is awful, but it's a fun awful. Whereas Can't Stop the Music is a little painful to me.
Okay, all right, good. I'm glad to hear that the Apple is not as bad as Can't Stop the Music, because like I said, I abandoned Can't Stop the Music with the intention of maybe getting back to it just so I could say I got through it, but I never did, and I think it's gone now from that streaming service. So, yeah, the Apple, this is rock and roll. It's glitzy. It's I think it's inappropriately sexual for its PG-13 or PG. Well, no, PG-13 didn't exist. It's PG rated. It's all of those things, all those hallmarks.
Oh, that was back in the day. Can't Stop the Music was PG, and
exactly.
There's a penis in there.
Yeah. Exactly.
I didn't see that. I must have bailed before that immortal moment came along.
It's very quick and it's in the background, but it's there in in I believe the YMCA. You also get to see Valerie Perine's breasts at some point. But
oh wow.
Yes.
Boy. It's really too bad. We're selling Can't Stop the Music, even though Dean just spent 5 minutes trashing it. That's completely nullified by that last sentence you just said, Mike. Valerie Perrine. Here's 2 more movies before we wrap up here. We'll save Glow, Mike, if you don't mind. We can save Glow.
No problem.
Yeah, next week. And Spider-Man also, which I saw. So we'll talk about those next time. When more people have seen, I don't know if Spider-Man will even have come out then. The embargo lifted, so I'm going to post a review on ZekeFilm, but we'll talk about it later. Here's one: Fred Olen Ray's Star Slammer.
Now that's the movie to watch with the kids.
Oh, I'm sure. What am I gonna do? I don't know why I went for this. It's I don't even know who this is. This lady in this film, Ross Hagen, Sandy Brooke. Stop me if any of these names mean anything to anybody.
Ross Hagen sounds familiar.
Susan Stokey. I don't know. Anyhow, this is a space comedy, action adventure, R-rated, full of aging. I think John Carradine. Yeah, John Carradine is in here. Poor John Carradine. 1986. This is back in the direct-to-VHS era. Yeah, low budget, and throw in a few Playboy and Penthouse centerfolds and an aging star or two, and there you go.
Yep, that was the kind
of
that was the kind of movie that would have been big at the drive-ins, as a second feature or something,
But 1986.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the drive-ins were dying then, but that's where all the great drive-in movies went to VOD. Went to not VOD, but direct to video.
Yes, exactly. The VHS heyday of bizarre crap. So this is probably squarely right in that wheelhouse, and I'll just find out.
Yeah.
This is stuff I would rent at the grocery store video rental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like when I was living in New York, I used to have a video rental that was located in a laundromat. There was like a Vietnamese laundromat, and they had all these video rentals. Most of them were bootlegs, but I did find Let It Be there. A VHS of Let It Be, which would be probably worth a lot of money these days.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which they keep threatening to release, and then they just won't. The Beatles.
Yeah, I think the Beatles are just have so many bad memories connected to that movie that I doubt that'll ever get out.
Yeah, and maybe when they're all gone and their estates are looking at the bottom line dollar that could be earned here.
Yeah.
Then we'll get Let It Be.
Yeah, you're right.
Not that we would wish any harm on Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr.
Of course not.
No, not at all.
It's just the inevitable, Mike. Here's one that I don't know. This is called Who's Crazy? And
I would have never guessed that was the title.
Yeah, it's on the cover. It just says "Who's Crazy" 8 times, and has anyone heard of this? This comes highly touted in the press release, which again, it's the press release, so it's gonna tout it. But it says this is a long lost classic of the avant-garde. Thomas White's Lost and Found Avant Lulu is what one critic says. Who's Crazy Pulses with the Newly Possible. Richard Brody, of course, the film critic, loves this movie. The guy who couldn't stand Pixar's Inside Out, but
he likes that.
Yeah, he loves this. I don't know. I never heard of this movie either. I'm pretty well read in movies, guys. I don't know what this is.
Maybe the answer to the titular question is Richard Brody. Who's crazy? Richard Brody. You're not liking that movie. I don't see how anybody could not like Inside Out.
I don't either. But this particular movie, Who's Crazy? It's 75 minutes with the what's this theater group called? Oh gosh, I'm trying to read it here. The Living Theater.
Okay.
Does that mean anything?
Well, I've heard a little bit about the Living Theater over the years, but not too much.
So it's an improvised movie with the Living Theater, and then Ornette Coleman scoring the thing on the fly. And so the score is a big deal.
Okay.
It also boasts Nino Ferrer and Marianne Faithfull were involved somehow. So again, I'll be seeing this. I'm supposed to write about it for the site. Everybody can check back and see whenever that happens.
Sounds interesting. Looking forward to hearing about it.
Yeah, who's crazy? And it was a lost film that was discovered in, of all places, the director's garage.
Isn't it always the way?
Yeah, we didn't look too far. Oh, and I said that was going to be it, but I've got one more thing here. From Criterion, the Marseille. Ooh, boy, I botched the French, don't I? This trilogy of films. This is also a 3 plays from Ugnall. Okay, he wrote these plays. He produced these plays based on 3 characters. This is the early 1930s French cinema. I've watched the first one so far. Very, very good, funny, laid-back movies.
Okay.
Ever heard of these?
I've never seen any of these actually. So that's
Yeah.
There's a lot of these. This is like the 30s, right? 30s and 40s.
Early 30s, yeah, early night, like right after the sound era launched. And looking at these films, you wouldn't know that really. There is a certain staginess, but it doesn't call attention to itself as a theater adaptation the way you might expect, particularly in the advent of sound, where movies in general tended to get stagey.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's that's kind of a blind spot. That early 30s era foreign films, with the exception of the biggies, like M or Metropolis. Well, not even Metropolis, but or Rules of the Game or things like that, or some Ozu movies.
Right.
There's a lot of 30s era non-English language movies that I'm not familiar with.
I had never heard of this before, but the opportunity to review it came along. So I'm going to be reviewing the Marseille trilogy for, not for ZekeFilm, but for Screen Anarchy,
Okay.
where I'm plugged into the Criterion list over there. We get, if we're lucky, 1 title per month sent our way. And this month I got a box set that I have to work my way through along with all of these. So I don't even know. What have I done to myself?
Maybe you should reconsider that whole minimalist argument. I know you're.
Oh, yeah, that's a thing from the internet earlier today on Facebook. There was an article that appeared, and I shared it because I thought it was so horrible. You should get rid of your DVD collection, some jerk wrote.
Oh.
And, yeah, it was called The Minimalist.
The thesis
falling on the wrong ears here.
the thesis of this rather dumb article, I kind of understand it, but I sort of don't also. The thesis was, are you going to really watch all these movies again? You're not going to watch them again, so why not get rid of them? Well, here's the reason why not to get rid of them. The reason is because all we've got now is streaming, and there's such a morass of rights issues and contracts and things that are kind of gumming up the works in terms of streaming, and there could be a time where some of these movies we won't be able to see unless we have a hard copy of them. I mean, you're not going to be able to see certain titles. I
can't stop the music.
Can't stop the music. Right now, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the series, is no longer on Netflix at all.
Right.
If you want to watch it, you have to have the DVD.
Exactly. Or I mean, it's dumb to rely on streaming alone to provide you with entertainment. It's going to fail you. You're gonna be wanting to see something very specific, and you're gonna find out that you can't. You can't see it because it's just simply not out there. It's not on any format. So,
and even if it is, good luck figuring out which of the platforms you need to subscribe to get it.
Yeah. how are you going to do that? You know, that's like that's going to be impossible. So yeah, no. You know, I mean, I understand about decluttering your life and all that stuff. That totally makes sense to me. You know, maybe get rid of a few DVDs that you don't want anymore. That's fine. We all do that. But getting rid of your whole collection, that's stupid.
Yeah. And we've given entirely, I feel responsible for this. We've given entirely too much publicity to the minimalists today on Facebook and elsewhere and here now. But yeah, no, keep your DVDs. People don't be pressured by some you know, millennial hipster. It's yours. Do what you want. So there you go. Well, guys, this has been a fantastic hour of Zeke Talk, and
it went so quickly.
No, you did it. I guess that depends on who you talk to. But yes, no, it was fun. I had a lot of fun with this, talking about these movies that no one's ever heard of and TV movies. We'll be back next week talking about Glow and Spider-Man Homecoming, among other things, hopefully. So join us then and subscribe to Zeke Talk at the ZekeFilm YouTube channel. And my hope is to get the audio versions up and running and subscribable and all of that on the different podcast platforms. Of course, that hasn't happened yet. If you are enjoying these video casts, I did talk yesterday with David L. Gill, who's a silent film aficionado here in St. Louis, and he and I talked about a Gloria Swanson film called Zaza. So that's a shorter conversation than this, which and also a lot more buttoned up, I should say. But anyway, you could find out about Zaza on that one. And there you go. Anything else to plug and promote, you guys? What do you got?
I do want to say this past episode of Twin Peaks. You know, we talked about it before on the program, but David Lynch has gone off his rocker in a magnificent way. It's the most experimental hour of television that you will see all year, and it's available on Showtime.
Let's just say that's the most experimental hour of TV that's ever been put on television.
He's gone full Razorhead on us. Yes,
it's great. Great episode. But probably not a lot of people would agree. But
I don't know. I feel like I'm missing out. My Facebook feed, you know, all about this episode.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. I mean, that episode, you know, if you're not with David Lynch by that episode, I mean, you're going to leave or you're going to stay. And, you know, I mean, it's one or the other, you know. People who are not always the case with it, or, you know, that's the episode that's really going to cut them loose. But for me, just keep it on doing Movie Geeks United. And I'm about to, I guess on Sunday, we're going to do our summer of 1992 episode. So we'll have Aaron Aradias on, and we'll be talking about all of the movies released between May of 92 and September of 92.
Some of my favorite episodes that you guys do.
I
always look forward to it.
They're always very popular. And of course on Filmicability, I think I'm getting ready to post I'm currently posting all of my old interviews that I did back in college. So I've already posted Tom Cruise, Robert Zemeckis. Recently I posted Spike Lee, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the last one I posted was Nicolas Cage. And also Harvey Picard, the writer of American Splendor. And I think the next one that I'm going to do is Stephen King.
Cool. Man, you talked to some powerhouse talent.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people over the years. So yeah, that'll be fun. It'll be fun to put that up.
Now you're talking to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly happy to be talking to you guys.
Well, that's fantastic.
Sorry.
Well, thank you. And you know, let's do it again. You know, we'll discuss our media backlog and oddities of the future. We'll do this again.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know when. I don't know. I know you, Dean. You don't want to talk about Spider-Man, do you?
No, I'm avoiding Spider-Man.
Yeah. See, this is where we differ. Yeah. So yeah, we'll come back and do more of this nonsense, which I just absolutely had a blast. So thank you guys.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
All right, folks. Next time on ZekeTalk, we'll see you then. And thank you. Be sure to check ZekeFilm.org every day for new content, and check and subscribe to us on our Facebook page, and join the ZekeFilm discussion group to talk movies. Post your own topics and see who bites. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.
Happy trails.
Bye.
See you later.